This spotlight event for Local Enterprise Week is brought to you by the Local Enterprise Offices and supported by Enterprise Ireland, the local authorities and the Government of Ireland.
It's a very big week in enterprise in Ireland. There are lots of events going on. This is our event. It's First Steps to Export Success, and it's hosted by Local Enterprise Office Westmeath. We've got a fantastic lineup of speakers, of case studies and discussion coming up as well. But I'm going to tell you a bit about how that will play out shortly. But first, I'm delighted to be joined by Carol Gibbons, who's Division Manager of Regions and Local Enterprise with Enterprise Ireland. And we will be joined by Simon Coveney, Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Employment shortly. So first, over to you, Carol Gibbons.
Good morning. Thank you, Richard. Good morning, everyone. And a special thank you to Christine and the team in the Local Enterprise Office Westmeath for their support of this morning's Spotlight event. I'm delighted to be here opening this First Steps to Export Success webinar, which marks the start of Local Enterprise Week 2023. It is one of 5 Spotlight events led by individual local enterprise offices, which are open to every business across the country. To put this event into context, our strategy, Leading in a Changing World, sets out our strategic goals, which underpins our vision for Irish enterprise. These include export-focused Irish enterprises delivering growth across all regions in Ireland. Ireland is a world-leading location to start and scale a business. Irish enterprises achieving competitive advantage through customer-led innovation and digitalisation. Irish enterprises leading globally on sustainability through customer-led innovation. We believe that by delivering on these ambitions, Irish enterprise will be best placed to capitalise on change and to continue to deliver growth. The growing importance of global marketplace platforms and the role of digital marketing engagement will be central to our model for Irish enterprise. In parallel with this, increasing the number of enterprises achieving growth through exporting to international markets will be a key focus. Working with the local enterprise offices and Board BIA, our collective objective is to encourage more companies to become export focused. Together, we want to accelerate the growth of exports and the diversification of Irish enterprises and deliver a major expansion in the exporting companies in every county in Ireland, which in turn will drive job creation and economic benefits. This webinar, organised by the Local Enterprise Office, in conjunction with ourselves and Enterprise Ireland and Board BIA, have a wonderful lineup of experienced speakers, including business founders and case studies, and might just become the catalyst for you. By being here, you have already taken that first step to export success, and I wish you every success along this journey. I'm going to pass you back to Richard.
Thank you very much, Carol, for that. And I'm delighted to be welcomed by Minister Simon Coveney, Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Employment, to make some comments to you. Minister.
Thanks very much, Richard. I hope you can hear me okay. First of all, good morning, and thank you to Christine and the team in Leo Westmeath for the invitation today to be part of this Spotlight event and to officially open Local Enterprise Week for 2023. This is the first event of what's going to be an extremely busy week across the country, and as usual, the local enterprise offices have excelled themselves in putting on a first-class schedule. With over 300 events, mostly in person, which is great to see, there is something for everyone, no matter what stage of business you're at. If you have that niggle of a business idea in the back of your head and you want to explore it in a bit more detail to see where it can go, then Local Enterprise Week is definitely for you. Whether you're a small business just starting out or an established enterprise looking to take the next step to exporting your products and services, Local Enterprise Week can help give you some guidance on a range of supports that are available through your local enterprise office and across the state agencies, and help you get your business moving in the right direction, which is what this is all about. In late 2022, the remit of the local enterprise offices has been extended so that they can now provide grant support alongside the advice and expertise already available to companies with up to 50 employees with export potential. Up until the end of last year, it was only 10. So for many of you, this may be your first attendance at Local Enterprise Week, and this is a perfect opportunity to familiarise yourself with all that's on offer on your doorstep through your local enterprise office. This week will make it easier for you to see a clearer path for your idea, your business, and see where you need to go next to realise that the supports and guidance are there to help you. The expertise of those that have gone before you and carved a path is now at your fingertips this week, from businesses that have made it to just starting up and all the experts and mentors who've helped them along the way. This initiative, Local Enterprise Week, is throwing the door open to everybody that's available in your local enterprise office year round. It's giving you a snapshot of everything and helping to simplify it so that it can make it more accessible for you and your business. You can see from the National Spotlight events alone that key areas such as sustainability and digitalization are being covered, as well as other key areas like productivity and ongoing competitiveness. There's no doubt it's been a challenging couple of years for small businesses. We know that. And those challenges continue with ongoing inflation and rising energy costs. What we've seen from small business in recent years is incredible resilience, innovation, and the ability to adapt to a new and changing situation. Our small businesses are the backbone of towns and communities across the country, supporting families and livelihoods. They deserve our support, and as a government, we will continue to do whatever we need to do to ensure that our small businesses can endure and can continue to grow and expand. As part of this, the local enterprise offices have programs including Lean for Micro, Digital Start, and Green for Micro that can make substantial changes on how your businesses are run in terms of productivity and competitiveness, and increasingly sustainability as well. I would urge any businesses who have not availed of these programs to think about it. They can not only make your businesses more efficient and more productive, but they can make a significant difference to your bottom line as well. In general, there's a direct link between efficiency, sustainability, and profitability, as well as use of digital. For those businesses who have the ambition to go a little bit further, that's probably why you're here today. We want to see more small businesses having that ambition to export and find new markets and break perhaps glass ceilings that haven't been broken before. Since the pandemic, the world has become a much smaller place. Websites and online selling have opened new doors for many companies, and we want to help businesses take advantage of those opportunities now. The new white paper on enterprise, which we launched in December, gives a clear direction of travel towards what we want our small businesses to achieve in relation to sustainability, digitalization, and increasing exports. We want more companies to look to new markets and to see where they can grow. Today, we'll hear from the companies that have done just that, the issues they faced and the solutions that helped them. And hopefully that will help you too to grow in your ambition for yourself and your company. In 2022, local enterprise office client companies created over 7,800 new jobs across the country, and a 10% employment increase on the previous year. 84% of those jobs were created outside of Dublin, highlighting the importance of supporting enterprises across all of our regions. Local Enterprise Office Week 2023 provides a platform for the LEOs and businesses to build on previous successes and continue this trend going forward. So I would say to everybody this morning, enjoy the session and do stay in contact with your local enterprise office, as they're best placed to show you what supports are available for you. Be that sustainability, trading online, digital, exporting, or even just getting an initial business idea off the ground with you. Take in as many of this week's events as you can. Be curious, ask questions, and find out exactly what you need to do to make that business idea a reality or help grow your existing business. This is a fantastic time to both start a business and grow a business, and government and its agencies, particularly through local enterprise offices, are there to help you do just that. So thank you for your time this morning. Thank you to everybody who has helped to organise this week. I'm sure it'll be a huge success, as indeed it has been in the past. Enjoy Local Enterprise Week 2023, and good luck with your businesses for the year ahead.
Minister Simon Coveney, thank you very much for joining us, and also thanks to Carol Gibbons from Enterprise Ireland. Well, as the Minister mentioned there, this event is the opening event of Local Enterprise Week, and with hundreds of brilliant online and in-person events taking place up and down the country. So we want to encourage you to make the most of those events, to strengthen your business and open whatever new opportunities there are out there. So visit your localenterprise.ie to find out what's happening. If you're tweeting, we have the hashtag making it happen. And also, if you have any questions arising from today's webinar, the team at Local Enterprise Office Westmeath are on hand to help. So please email info@leo.westmeathcoco.ie, and they'll review your query and respond or forward it to the right person in Enterprise Ireland for our board BIA, for example, if that's the most relevant place for the query. Well, we're going to kick off by talking about the Local Enterprise Network supports for clients, and I'm delighted to be joined by Tracy Tallon, who is Senior Enterprise Development Officer at Local Enterprise Office Westmeath. Tracy, you're very, very welcome. I suppose, first of all, can you give us an outline of the range of supports at the local enterprise offices across the country?
Sure. Thank you very much, Richard. Delighted to see so many businesses on the call today. As they say, the first step in exporting is the hardest step. So you've taken that now and you're here. So we're here to support you on the journey. The LEAs would be the first stop shop for all SME businesses. And it's a key focus of ours to support businesses right through their growth phase up until export, and then to graduate over to Enterprise Ireland. And we've seen those businesses that have taken that leap as really benefiting from some lucrative market opportunities. It also can be that the decision to export, it could have been reactive or just an opportunity that came their way. But what we do see is those that really succeed and thrive as having a planned strategy in place. And that's where the enterprise network can help them. So we've a range of export business advisors available. Each LEO will have an export business advisor, and they're going to be able to provide you specialist advice to help clients embark on that journey. And they're going to start to explore what's really right for you, the client. So as backup to them, we would have a specific mentoring panel of specialists. So they cover a wide range of areas, and they'll sit down with you, your business, and carry out a market entry health check, so to speak. So they're going to look at your product service offering and see really there which is best suited to the export market, help you with identifying your value proposition. They can also help identify gaps, look to see, where are you going to have sufficient demand there, and then really see what that route to market might look like, and if there's possibly, some mutually beneficial partnerships you could use to get there. Pricing is going to be a key part of that, and we have specialist mentors there because it's going to have to be a viable and sustainable option for your business as well. And then it can go down into the more specifics, customs, implications, regulations, and the mentors, they'll help navigate those areas with you. And at the end of the day, after mentoring, you should really have an export action plan, and it can identify out some key priorities, like real actionable insights. So all work that you would do at this stage with the mentor, it's so important in limiting that exposure down the road and minimizing risk. And following on from mentoring, one of our key offerings would be specific export training programs. So around the country, there's a host of programs available, They're tailored to meet specific sectors, specific markets. And as part of those programs, you're going to get access to workshops, one-to-one mentoring. Most of them culminate in market insight visits, and then meet the buyer events usually happen at the end of those as well. So that time that you take out of your busy schedule and have those conversations, it can really help focus companies to look strategically at exporting has been a real option for you. So the more markets you can serve, the wider you're going to spread your risk and the more resilient the company will become. And we have some financial supports to back those up. And they come in the form of the TAME grant, we call it. It's a technical assistance for micro exporters. So that'll cover up to 50% of qualifying expenditure, and that's up to a max of 2,500. So you can use that to explore and develop new overseas markets. Typically what people use it for is exhibiting at international trade fairs. Maybe you might need to do a bit of translation work on some of your marketing materials or your website. And they also cover attendance at some of the Enterprise Europe networking events as well. So as Leos, we really encourage businesses to participate in targeted trade fairs and meet the buyer events. Like doing this as part of a group, it's really building your peer network and giving you the confidence then to pursue those overseas opportunities. And we've seen the benefits of this in attending international events, because companies begin to develop a more strategic approach. They're looking at what others are doing and they're seeing how they're doing it. They're watching for upcoming trends, and can really, really help companies to keep that strategic thought in their mind. Is there future partnerships here that we could use? And we have had success with those in the past. And I did mention there the EEN and Enterprise Europe network events. Like those events are covered under your TAME grant attendance at those. And I just do want to flag it as it's a network there. There's over 470 offices and 69 countries. Just so people are aware of it, it's en-ireland.ie. And that's a network where you're going to get advice and support, but there's also partnering opportunities there as well, for those people looking to source or supply international markets. And they will have some international events coming up. So it is an idea just to sign up for their newsletter on their website. But your Leo can also help provide support around developing your online profile to access that network. Trading online vouchers is there as well. I do want to mention them because they are, I suppose, your shop window, the first place an international buyer is going to look. So that's another 50% fund up to 2,500 max. And really, there was an independent study carried out, and it has shown that 31% of the vouchers issued to date are being used to trade internationally. So people are using them. Further 27% planned to go international with their website this year. So it can be a stepping stone to give businesses that confidence, to get out of the domestic market. Also, just Leo clients, you do have access to the Market Research Centre. There's a wealth of information. Bernadette's going to go into it later, so I won't go into it further, but just to say your Leo can help you access that Market Research Centre within Enterprise Ireland. And also Leo clients have access to the network of overseas office. And there's over 40 offices there worldwide, and industry experts to help you overcome obstacles in each country that you're trying to enter the market. So again, I just want to mention to have a defined ask, though, a defined project before going down that route, just to get the best value from that support as well.
Tracy, a huge variety of supports there, and I'm conscious of the time as well, but there are a couple of other ones that are worth mentioning that deal more specifically with capability, capacity, and competitiveness. You might just be able to talk us through a couple of those.
Okay, yeah, because we have seen that businesses that export, they do become leaner and more resilient and really raise their game around productivity, sustainability, and process improvements. So we have the Lean for Micro. That's 5 days consultancies Some LEOs offer it to start on a workshop basis, but that's going to really look internally to help improve your competitiveness. And you are going to find that, with export markets, it is going to put an increase on your demands. The same with sustainability. Some people are finding they need to have these sustainable plans in place. So Green for Micro is going to help you with that. And you can delve in even further with Green Start. Again, it's consultancy based to help you get a plan in place, how you're going to improve things internally. And Digital Start grants, it's on the same principle. You're going to get 4 days consultancy. It's going to help give companies that digital edge. And because it's so competitive out there in the digital world, I would say any tools you can avail of to help improve the customer's experience there is going to be beneficial. The Agile Innovation Fund is there just if you do need to tweak those products or services in order to be able to access different markets. So localenterprise.ie will have all the further information listed there around those sports. Our general grants are there under capital and the job side of things with priming, business expansion and feasibility. So they're there available because employment might need to be built up or capital might need to be invested in. So those grants are there also, as is on the last one, Grad Start, I'll squeeze it in there at the end, is it's a financial assistance to take on a graduate. And you can get a higher award level there of grant if that graduate is proficient in a language, which might all help in your plans to access other markets.
Okay. Tracy, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. A lot of supports there, a lot of information as well for people to digest. And of course, they can go and do follow-ups with their LEO or with Enterprise Ireland in relation to some of these things. Thank you very much, Tracy Talon of LEO Westmeath. Well, we're going to move on to our first case study, and I'm delighted to be joined by Peter Morrow of Skylark Attic Stairs. Hello, Peter. I think you're on mute there, Peter. You might need to click that. Hello.
There he is now. Have you got me?
We've got you. We've got you. You're very welcome. Peter,
thank you.
Perhaps you might tell us a little bit about yourself and the company, first of all.
Yeah, well, I'm Peter Morrow. I'm the CEO of Skylark Electric Attic Stairs. We are now 11 years in business here in Tuam, County Galway. We manufacture a 3-section fully electric attic stairs, and well, we export to multiple countries, thankfully, and yeah, steadily grown over that period of time.
That's great. I suppose, first of all, from an export point of view, what made you decide to embark on the exporting path?
Yeah, well, we took the unusual, maybe not the unique step, but certainly the unusual step of going to export right from the start. And not something that necessarily would be advised, but it was kind of forced upon us. When we started out in 2013, there really wasn't a market for the product here. That product, the market is a bit better now, 11 years on, but it probably still wouldn't be good enough to sustain a company. So we were very much kind of forced into it because of the cost of the product and everything else, that it seemed to us logical to go straight to the UK. And it was a scary step to take, but that's what we did. And looking back on it, I think it was the right decision, really.
What would you say were the biggest challenges or difficulties of doing that?
Yeah, I think we were very green. I mean, we initially got going and we got a few companies interested in the product because the product itself is really fantastic. So it sold itself. The biggest issue would be putting too much faith in the promises companies make to you and getting bogged down with, giving them too much time to fulfill the promises they made. So I would really caution people against that, we're a little bit too soft and too nice in this country in certain ways. I think you need to be a little bit more firm. If they're not upholding to the obligations that they made, then, you need to move on. And we didn't quick enough. We spent 2.5 years with one company and it really put us behind the 8 ball, really.
And would that be a key piece of advice that you give to someone else then, having had that?
Yeah, all the time. So as I said, 2.5 years, we got locked into one company. We believe, like, you have to understand it from our perspective. They were a good company. They had good infrastructure. They made massive promises. And So you're very excited. You come away from that meeting thinking, oh gosh, we've landed it here, we're away. And the other great benefit to it was one address that we could ship all our product to. So it was everything ticked the boxes all the way around. And I would imagine in some cases it could be very beneficial and work very well. Unfortunately for us, they just weren't fulfilling the promises. Like we had 6-month targets to reach. Each 6 months would come, they wouldn't have reached the target. But there was always what we would find good excuses for that. So you just keep pushing on. If I were to do it again, I would probably give them the first 6 months. Okay, you didn't achieve it, but next 6 months, if you don't achieve it, we're moving. And we didn't do that. And it took 2.5 years before we eventually moved away. So for anybody heading out into the world of export, yes, you want to have your meetings with these companies, but you must be very, very strict on your targets and the targets that you've set for them.
And Peter, is there anything else apart from that being a bit too forgiving and a bit too patient? Apart from that, is there anything else that you would have done differently?
Well, one of the things that came to us, which it wasn't available at the beginning to us, but became available later on, was Lean. And I just heard them talking about it there. We engaged the Lean program in 2016, and it was a complete eye-opener just to how inefficiently we were at manufacturing the stairs. So, and also mentors, get onto your mentors, get onto your local enterprise office, get the mentors to help you, especially the mentors that are in your industry or closely related to your industry. Those are things that you need to do. We didn't do that early enough. I would have done that earlier. But definitely the Lean for Micro, I mean, I've been a great exponent of it ever since. It is the greatest thing you can do. But regardless of whether you're a product manufacturer or you're a service provider, you can run your factory, you can run your company more efficiently. And this gives you a roadmap and clear, concise instructions as to how to do that. So as I said, that wasn't available to us in 2013. It only rolled out, I think, in 2016, but it's available now, so make use of it.
Were there other particular supports that you have used along the way that were helpful?
Yeah, so we've got grants. We've got feasibility grants. We've got machinery grants from Leo as well. So, we got actually twice. When we set up first, we got a grant towards machinery. That was a small enough grant. And then we did a massive extension to the company in 2017, I think. And again, we went back to Leo and they helped us and supported us in that as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's just we're so fortunate. I mean, one of the reasons we now ship to Germany is because the German film company was doing a documentary and just happened to hear our story and about the supports of Leo and Enterprise Ireland. And they were fascinated by this because they don't have it in Germany. So that's how fortunate we have. And they came over and filmed here, and now we sell in Germany as a result of that. So we're very fortunate to have these state bodies helping companies, small companies, larger companies. We just need to avail of them,
So in a way, then you got into the German market by
by
about the supports available in Ireland.
Yes, absolutely. And they were fascinated. They made a call to us and talked to us and says, and your Irish government gave you money to buy machines and blah, blah, blah. And so they were fascinated by that. And they said, we just do not have anything like that in Germany. So, we're very.
So what happened then? Did they broadcast that film? And then
so actually they came here. There were 3 days filming. So they met with our local Leo office in Galway. They did a bit of filming with them first. And then they spent 2 days with us filming. And then it was broadcast on the national broadcast in Germany. I think we got 9 minutes free airtime. And our website just crashed with the amount of people that contacted us. And my wife, Carol, and I, who's my business partner, were answering emails at 2:30 in the morning, which were all coming to us in German, by the way. So Google Translate, thank God for it.
That was the least of your problems.
Yes, yeah.
And what about the export journey for you now? And I'm thinking about, further supports or help that you might need in order to continue or to go further.
Yeah, well, we keep going back to Leo. So we've just completed a Leo Ready for Export program that just rolled out in Galway. I don't know if it's anywhere else in the country yet or not, but so that was with a marketing company called IMS in Morrow. So they worked with us for 12 weeks to prepare ourselves because we've identified the Nordic countries as we don't have any platform there at all. So, and that's another thing, even though we're in America, we're in Australia, we're in, Belgium, Germany, and whatever, it was quite an eye opener to find out that we were still quite green as far as our marketing strategy was and how we looked, how we presented ourselves to other companies. And I think that's something that if you're going to go exporting, you know, try and have that as best you possibly can. Because, you know, again, you know, I drove around England in a van showing the stairs, but it's really not in the modern day. There's much more professional ways that you can make your company look a lot more professional than it probably is. But that's the illusion you're always trying to give. And this was a great program that we entered into the last 12 weeks, and we've just completed it. And we've identified a lovely company in Sweden that we hope to make contact in the next couple of months.
Okay. Well, fascinating story. Well done, Peter, as well, on all of your successes, and the best of luck in the future with it. That's Peter Morrow from Skylark Attic Stairs. Thank you very much. Well, we're going to move on to talk a little bit about food and the food and drink sector, and I'm delighted to be joined from Board BIA by Claudia Saumel, who is Client Engagement Manager, and she's going to talk a little bit about things from a Board BIA perspective and how that sector is doing. Claudia, you're very welcome.
Thank you so much, Richard, and thank you and good morning, everybody online.
Now, I suppose the first thing is, how are we doing in terms of the food and drink sector? How is it performing exports and value?
Well, Richard, actually, the export performance and prospects that was published just early this year showed kind of a significant record in exports from the Irish food and drink industry. So we reached 16.7 billion euros, and that's kind of over 22% compared from last year. So I think that the industry is very resilient, even though, I mean, that growth obviously has been kind of driven highly with the cost of inflation. But in terms of volume and value, both have been increased. So the companies are very resilient. They are kind of it needs kind of to be well prepared to be kind of reaching that level of exports. And I think that all the companies have reached that level and succeeding in those markets. In terms of those exports, if we have to kind of have a simple kind of a breakdown of where they're going, UK, it's primarily the main market. It takes approximately 34% of the Irish food and drink exports. Europe and continental Europe basically takes around 32%, and the international markets, which has been kind of growing significantly in the last 10 years, has reached 34% of these kind of overall food and drink exports. And when we say international market, it's everything outside Europe and the UK. So exports into Southeast Asia, into the Middle East, into the USA. So these have been growing significantly over the last few years.
We definitely associate Irish food and drink industry very closely with sustainability and with the Origin Green program as well. How important is that?
Well, sustainability is for Board BIA, it underpins everything that we do. We have the Origin Green program that was launched back in 2012, and we can say that now over 90% of the companies that they are exporting are Origin Green members, verified members. So it's crucial. I think that for us, it's kind of a journey to kind of create that competitive advantage for companies in the export market. I was just reading, very quickly, I was reading this morning the report, the top retail trends from retail, from IGD, and it just caught my attention that 5 areas to watch that was reflected in this report were the eco stores, in terms of formats and concepts, eco labels, so that the consumer knows exactly where the product is coming from, choice editing, so manufacturers will be able to kind of delist products and suppliers if they don't think that they commit to their goals. Product transparency, again, I mean, they have to make changes in terms kind of if the product is kind of complying with sustainability principles or not, and sustainable diet. So a healthy diet is a healthy planet. So this is just kind of an example to say that retailers are looking at these credible points from suppliers that they have to kind of prove that they are becoming more sustainable and they are producing sustainably. So this is at the core of Board BIA, and as I said, I mean, the majority, 90% of the companies nowadays are Origin Green verified, and we continue like that.
And from a Board BIA perspective and companies engaging with Board BIA, what are the supports and services available?
So supports and services, I mean, I was kind of listening to Tracy, and, there's a lot of things that maybe kind of are similar to what the Leos, but we have kind of probably kind of it depends on what needs what's the right thing for the right company. So there's companies that maybe they are kind of interested to start exporting, and other companies that they are kind of they have more the whole market really under control, and they have more capacity and capacity to scale. So if I had to kind of maybe resume the support and services that Borbia has, I'd like to explain that it's kind of a chain. It's like a journey. You have to think, you have to plan, and you have to do. So when we encourage companies to think, we are offering kind of information services so that they understand all the markets and which customers they need to go. So there's kind of a fantastic library in Borbia that we can access to all these kind of sources of information to understand in terms of the category, if it's growing, the different markets, what the attitude of the consumers in those markets. So that would be the first step. Think what you want to do, where you want to go. The plan, it's more kind of the adapting the company so that they are equipped and prepared to go to those export markets. All these supports are done in-house. I mean, we have kind of fantastic teams that they are delivering themselves and accompanying the companies through this journey. And in terms of plan, we can divide in two different kind of big areas. One is the capability supports that we've heard Tracy also mentioning, and these capability supports they are in the form of workshops, one-to-one, and that's all done by the capability team in Borbia. And they could go from the commercial marketing strategy to understand which is the right channel, which is the right market for you. It could be kind of a think digital, again, just kind of improve and get better in terms of kind of selling online. It's the key exporting strategy. So to see, well, we have identified a market, so what do we do? And we have another very key support, which is the Brexit supports that I think that it's becoming now that we are kind of hopefully reaching the stage that we'll get the new operation model defined by the UK government. But it is crucial for companies that they want to be thinking of the UK to understand which are the challenges. So we have a fantastic team in place that we deliver workshops, and we have one-to-one mentoring to solve all those gaps and to be trading with the UK in a compliant manner. And then the second part of the support would be more in terms of kind of a brand support. So is the brand fit for that market? Do you need to create a packaging, create a new brand? So we do look at all the different kind of areas of the brands. I mean, what's the existing brand, and if that brand fits for that market, and if it needs to be tweaked, change, because we have to, I suppose, kind of get the attention of that consumer in the export markets. So there's a huge work in terms of branding so that the company is ready in terms of upskilling the team, but also having the value proposition right for that market. And then finally, the last kind of probably kind of cluster of supports would be around the do. And this is when all the network offices, we have 14 offices around the world, and these offices have the ability of being the link between the potential customers or potential new buyers with those food suppliers. So it's when everything happens. There's the market activation, there's kind of the introduction with customers, there's participation in trade fairs. And this is when our knowledge in markets supported by those overseas offices help that company that wants to export in that market and just make the connection.
Okay. Claudia, that's great, to get a sense of the variety of supports and services that are there. One other thing, how does a company become a Borbia client?
Yes, Richard, that's a very important question. So we do have kind of we work with all the different agencies. We work closely with the LEOs, with Enterprise Ireland, because I mean, I think that there's a space for all of us, and depending on the company, the sector, and the state of the company. But to become Borbia client, you have to be manufacturing in Ireland, and you have to have a turnover over 100,000. That's more or less kind of the line that kind of separates all the work that the LEOs are doing, and then when we came in. So we need a company with that kind of that level of turnover, so that our capability supports are really fit for purpose. So that would be, but all the information, I mean, it's accessible in Borbia, borbia.ie, or if any company attending this webinar this morning has any questions, please just send your request at info@borbia.ie and we'll be very happy to get back to them.
Okay. Claudia Saumel, thank you very much for that. And as you heard there, if you have any queries in relation to Borbia or any of the others arising from the webinar today, you can contact the team at local enterprise office in Westmeath. They're on hand to help. You can email info@leo.westmeath.co.ie and they'll review your query and respond and forward you to the right person, whether it's somebody in Enterprise Ireland or somebody in Borbia. Now, after today's event, the team in LEO Westmeath will email you a link to watch this event back if you want to, if you need to. It's also available to watch back on the Local Enterprise Office YouTube account. So please do share it with anyone else that you might think would find it helpful. Now we're going to move on to look at exporting, and we're going to move into a segment talking to experts from Enterprise Ireland and setting out, I suppose, the export roadmap for companies. We're going to talk a bit about supports that are available. We're going to talk a bit about the research and access to data that is available for companies that want to export through Enterprise Ireland. We're going to talk about the British UK market as well. And we're also going to talk about the Eurozone, that wider market that is full of opportunities as well for Irish companies. So firstly, we'll go to Nagma Riley, and she is Senior Sales and Marketing Specialist with Enterprise Ireland. Nagma, you're very welcome.
Good morning, Richard. Good morning, everyone.
And you're going to talk to us a bit about strategy and so forth, yeah?
Yes. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. I'm going to talk briefly about how to develop a strategic approach to developing your exports. To put it into context, when a business first starts, and many of you probably are at this stage, there is the CEO or the founder is leading the business, there's a small team, and everyone is moving in the same direction. There's a strong vision. The vision of the CEO is shared by the team. But as the business grows, there's a potential that you could have different functions, different roles within the organization operating in different directions. And the vision that brought the team together at the beginning of the journey might not exist, and people might have different visions, and there might not be a strategic alignment between the team. And the way to overcome this is to introduce the role of a strategic marketeer to your business. Now, many of you might think this is something that a multinational should do. We won't have the resources to have such a fancy title in our business, but it's really a person who can bridge the gap between R&D, product development, and market needs. And if you have a strategic marketeer within your business, it's like the gravitational force that will pull all the different elements of the business together and make sure that everybody has a common vision. You're all you share a common strategy, and more importantly, that you're focusing on the market opportunities that best drive revenue. A lot of times when we work with our clients, we see that R&D is a little bit separated from the sales and marketing, and this is really to make sure that that gap is bridged. I just also want to share with you a concept. Oh, sorry. No, I'm not thanking you yet. I just also want to share you a concept about a journey that companies go through until they become strategic. When a company first starts, they're product or technology driven. That means that all their focus and energy is spent on developing a product or a technology. There is a danger in being so focused on developing your product or technology, in that you might lose sight of what is needed in the market, that your product is not aligned with the market, that you're developing a product without consulting with customers or without what the market needs. You might end up with what we call a feature soup, that you add bells and whistles without actually thinking if someone is going to pay for them. And you might end up developing what is cool rather than what is commercially a viable product. The next stage of development is that you could be sales driven. And you might think, okay, surely this is not a bad thing if you're focusing on sales. The disadvantage of this approach is that you are focusing on, you might be selling to the wrong type of customers. It could be opportunistic rather than strategic. The customer might not be aligned with the vision of your business, and what we really say to our clients is, if sell when you know what you're selling and who you're selling to. So make sure that the sale is not short term, but it actually strategically and in the long term would bring revenue to your business. The next area of involvement is you could be a competitor driven. And the risk of that approach is that you're actually obsessed with your competitors, and you might become a Me Too product rather than carving out a niche for yourself. The next stage of involvement is if you're customer driven. And we heard Peter earlier on today saying that they spend so much time and resources with one customer, and after 2.5 years, they had to walk away. And that is the danger we see in a lot of companies, especially startups. If you're too focused on a handful of customers, you end up developing a product and service for that customer that might not have any potential outside that relationship. And if that relationship does not materialize, you are in danger of having lost sight of what's needed in the market. So what we say you should be is that you should be market driven. When you're market driven, means that you focus on the segments of the market that are aligned with your business, that you're tailoring your solution to the customers that actually are strategically in line with the products you have, and you also are addressing a broader need of clients. So you really, if you're market driven, your sales and marketing and product development is driven by what is needed in the market, and you position yourself as a value generator to your customers. So these were just some of the concepts that I wanted to share with you this morning. Normally, we spend a whole day covering these topics with our clients, but what I wanted to do is just maybe spark some thoughts in you to see, could you apply some of these ideas and best practice to your business in order to become more strategic in developing your export. Thank you, Richard. I think you're mute.
Sorry about that. Naghmeh, I'm sure there's a lot of interesting material there and a lot of food for thought, but I'm sure you must come across companies that make mistakes. You know, what are the common mistakes that companies make that don't think strategically about these things?
Yeah, if we were to look maybe even at two of the common mistakes, one is that a lot of clients underestimate what it takes, resources that is needed to enter a new market. And we see them entering many geographies at the same time without really planning for it, without having the resources for it. And entering a new market really needs a lot of work, needs research, and it is better to look at one market at a time rather than go wide. What we call a spray and pray approach, that you're actually hoping that somebody somewhere would sell your product. And the other mistake, which is actually ties into this, is to be really clear about who your target audience is. And a lot of times we find that companies that just spread their message too wide. They don't identify who is the right customer, and they don't really focus on how to reach that customer. And some of the clients that we've worked with, when they've actually narrowed their focus, which might be counterintuitive, that you think if you're narrowing your focus, you're going to sell more, but they actually have, by narrowing their focus, They have increased their sales, the hit rate to their website has increased, their conversion rate has increased, the cost of sales per customer has increased. And all of this is because they're talking, their message is resonating to their target audience rather than being dispersed so widely that no one actually hears it.
And there are mistakes that can be made. If there were just briefly one or two lessons, you know, that companies could take away from that.
Yeah, I suppose, and I think the next speakers are going to cover that, is intelligence gathering. Know your customers, know your competitors, know your market, and make decisions based on evidence rather than gut feel. And the other thing I would say again is it's all about the customer. Think about your ideal customer, what keeps them up at night, and how does your product and service create value for them and helps them sleep better.
Okay, we could all do with that. Nagma Riley of Enterprise Ireland, thank you very much for joining us. Well, you flagged there about information and access to data. We're going to talk about EI's Market Research Centre, look at the services and supports that are available there. And I'm delighted to be joined by Bernadette Mooney, Senior Information Specialist with Enterprise Ireland. Bernadette, hello, you're very welcome.
Morning, Richard. Hi, everyone.
Well, can you tell us, first of all, Bernadette, a little bit about the importance of market research to the companies here today? Why does it matter so much?
Right, I think some of our previous speakers have done a great job on that, especially Nagma, outlining in a rapidly shifting, complex, highly competitive environment, the importance of knowing your customer, knowing your market, starting off maybe with one market, investigating it. Yeah, it's a very serious business, but for most of the people on this call, they're creative, they're enthusiastic, they're entrepreneurial. So it's fun as well, because generally somebody starts off with a product or an interest in an area that engages them. So while it can seem to be like quite an onerous task, it's not. It can be fun, it can be interesting, lots of travel, lots of workshops, lots of involvement. But basically, the bottom line is always evidence-based decision-making for you and your company, like Skylark mentioned, you know, the fact that gathering information on the company, on your competitors, analyzing it, reviewing it.
And I suppose, you know, a lot of companies, you know, there's different types of research. People might want to get on a plane, you know, lots of them say, we're going to export, let's start with Paris and we'll go and investigate that. But in reality, there are lots of different types of market research, aren't there, Bernadette?
Yeah, obviously you do your research before you do any of that, but that's the plan, is to move into an export focus. That's what all our drive is about in the organization. So in terms of primary information, a lot of companies would already have access to information in their own circle, in their own network. And where B also provides some primary information, as in primary research, Enterprise Ireland has access to a vast array of secondary research resources, which would be online databases that are provided free to our clients. They're obviously an investment by the Irish government in our clients. So reports prepared by industry analysts that clients can get access to, that can give them deep knowledge of markets, value.
And when you look at Enterprise Ireland's Market Research Centre, how exactly do you assist companies?
We can assist them validate a market opportunity, develop your value proposition, very much in the lines of what Nagma has stated already. If you're a client of Enterprise Ireland, you can access us directly. If you're a Leo, we can work through the Leo Business Advisor. And if you're not already a client of any of the agencies, contact your local enterprise site and make your initial contacts there. It's really around identifying your competitors and potential customers entering a new market. So clients get access to the centre in a physical way in the Dublin office, but we also operate virtually. We share what we can online within our license agreements with our clients. So profiles, customer reports, competitor lists, lead generation lists, stuff like that, that can assist our clients in advance of them making any decisions.
I presume, Bernadette, all of this information and the way that it's accessible through the centre, it really speeds up the whole process of getting a good store of knowledge about a potential market.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a client who has done their own homework and perhaps worked with one of the other agencies in a mentoring capacity, or has had a think about their business plan or worked with a mentor, will have a better developed story. And the clients that we work with are clients of Leo's that have been recommended to us by the Leo as having exporting potential. So they've already validated a certain amount of their exporting plan with the Leos. And we go the next step of the way in assisting them with practical access to a wide variety of information, company, country, statistics, and we can signpost other services within the organization, and basically give our clients one-to-one assistance. But obviously with the online option as well, it's a far easier option for a lot of clients instead of traveling.
Okay, so there are multiple ways of accessing it.
Yeah.
There's lots of different types of information there.
Yeah.
So all people need to do is contact you. Bernadette Mooney of Enterprise Ireland, thank you very much for joining us. Well, you know, there are lots of export markets. The UK has traditionally been a very, very strong one for Irish exporting companies and continues to be. I'm joined by Laura Brocobank, who is Senior Market Advisor at Enterprise Ireland's UK office in Manchester. Laura, you're very welcome.
Hi, thanks a million, Richard. I'm delighted to be here with so many companies today. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, first of all, I suppose, why is the UK an attractive market for Irish exporters?
So firstly, I'd say that most importantly, the willingness from the UK to do business with Ireland is there. So Ireland is one of the UK's largest trading partners. And if we look at 2021, our export figures for Enterprise Ireland clients, UK exports grew to a record 8.4 billion in 2021. And that was our highest ever and now accounts for 31% of the total exports. That was up 15% across all industries. So even through COVID, even through the economic challenges, our clients are still successfully exporting to the UK, and the UK is still a resilient market for exporting. Of course, this changes. The UK is no longer in the EU, so the trading relationship has changed. So there are new trading processes, there's new rules that companies need to adhere to, but it hasn't held back companies to successfully exporting. But these changes are mainly around shipping and customs. So most of our Irish companies are now prepared for that. We have supported them the whole way through to be prepared for the changes. And if clients or if companies are looking to export for the first time, or if they're an early stage exporter, Enterprise Ireland have customs support, as do the Leo offices, as Tracy mentioned earlier. So it'll be easier to navigate the process. But I suppose, excuse me, in terms of the obvious reasons for the UK being an attractive market, it's the proximity of the market. We speak the same language, and we inherently have a closeness of culture as well here. And some of the most experienced exporting companies will actually refer to the UK as their home market for these very reasons. There are risks, of course, there's always risks, there's risks to everything, but I think the biggest risk is not exporting into other markets. It just means that you're not reliant just on the Irish market. It spreads the risk, it makes your business more resilient in the long term.
Okay. Can you tell us a bit about Enterprise Ireland's presence in the UK, you know, in terms of locations and, you know, expertise in particular sectors, etc.?
Yeah, so in the UK, we have two Enterprise Ireland offices. We have a London office and we opened the Manchester office where I'm based. We opened it in 2019. And across the whole of the UK team, we're 23 market advisors. So we have deep sectoral and industry knowledge. And each of us focuses on an industry with strategic importance. And we look at that opportunity across the whole of the UK as a market advisor. So we will support our client companies in industries for example, industrial and manufacturing sectors such as construction, life sciences, agriculture, offshore wind. I could go on, auto and aero, for example, consumer retail, the public sector and local authorities. But also, for example, we've got 5 in our ICT team, so covering those digital sectors such as fintech, e-commerce, cybersecurity, telecoms. And we support our clients across all stages of growth. We support them to strategically grow and scale with a view to having long-term sustainable growth. But also it's really important that we help build their competitiveness and their capability in the UK market. So as well as supporting in existing markets or sectors of opportunity, we're always looking to validate emerging opportunities as well. And we match our client capability to those opportunities in the market.
Okay. Well, we're talking about, first steps to export success. I'm just thinking, what would exporting to success in the UK look like for a company?
So I would say, we've had some brilliant speakers today, and I think taking a strategic approach to exporting is the key to success. And Tracy spoke about the great supports that are available through Leo via your export business advisors and mentors, and also NAGMA brought you through some of the strategic planning process. But I would say, firstly, if you've got the intent, if you've got the interest and the willingness and the ambition to export, I think you're already off to a brilliant start. If you consider, we talked about considering a market, pick one market, think about one market as opposed to spreading yourself too thin. Even if we just look at the UK, and we could say from a scale perspective that Ireland is the same as Greater Manchester alone. So I do think picking one market is really important. Market research, I would say, more than anything, the most important thing to do is market research. And Bernadette said it perfectly there, that it's evidence-based decision-making. And everything that you're going to do around your export plan is going to be based on the market research that you do. So the Market Research Centre is the largest repository of market intelligence. As market advisors in the market, we use it on a daily basis as well. So, we would advise our clients to also use it, and for, the Leo companies to access it, really get the most out of it, but go to the Market Research Centre with a really clear ask. A lot of the companies are not going to be big, a lot of our SMEs that are looking to export to the UK. So you will need to be realistic. You're going to have to dedicate some personal time in order to do the market research. Resources, really think about that. It's not realistic to think you're going to have a whole team to do your market research. Ultimately, in the long run, it's going to be really important, because in order to become active in the market and get resources on the ground in the market, you really need to make the right resourcing decisions. And unless you know the market well enough, you won't be able to do that.
So there are different phases and steps to it all, Laura.
Yeah.
And if you were to identify the sequencing of those steps to get from sitting here maybe online today and thinking about it to getting to a successful endpoint, what are those main steps?
So I think if you look already, if you've got the ambition and intent, as I said, that's the best start. But then insights and market research are really key. So things like, some of my colleagues, Nagme mentioned earlier, like identify a sector or one market, but then in the market, even just identify one sector. So if you're a company selling into food and drink manufacturing and pharma manufacturing, pick one and do your market research on that. Go to the market, do a market study visit trade shows, visit events, meet your customers, get to understand your network and get closer to your potential customers to understand their needs in the market. That'll also help you build a picture of competitor analysis. I will say the number of companies that we speak to that say they have no competitors is a lot of companies, but believe me, you will have a competitor in one form or another. And so coming to the market will help you understand that and all the market research processes. Consider your route to market. So what does your supply chain look like in the UK? Is it different? Would it be better going directly? Should you go via a partner? Should you look at using a distribution channel? Think about tailoring your value proposition. We spoke about sustainability, our colleagues on board BIA. So around your value proposition, what challenges are you solving, but also what are the priorities and challenges to your UK customers? Is there a really strong focus on sustainability? well, then you need to make sure that that's included in your value proposition. And also that ties into your messaging. So, you know, make sure your messaging is key. And giving a really good example of this is your website. So for example, if your UK customer is going onto your website and you have written across it that you're a market leader in Ireland, you know, that's not necessarily speaking to your UK customer. So make sure your messaging is strong. Consider your pricing strategy, you know, factors like customs are going to come in, currency, etc. And Peter, you know, from Skylark early on spoke earlier about their success and journey to exporting. So get peer advice, you know, speak to companies that have done it before, have a chat with them. I'm sure they're happy to share, you know, like Peter has today. And just you can get some really good advice on how to navigate your exporting journey.
Okay.
And then I would say kind of next step would be planning, and then just make the commitment to do it.
And remember that even if you haven't seen them, there's always a competitor lurking out there who's out to get you somewhere and somehow. Laura Brocobank, thank you very much for that. Laura from Enterprise Ireland there. Well, we're going to move a little bit further away from the UK to the Eurozone, and I'm delighted to be joined by Anne Lanigan, who's Regional Director of Eurozone. Anne, you're very welcome.
Good morning, Richard, and good morning to our audience.
Well, I suppose the first thing is when we think about the Eurozone as a market, and there are lots of markets within it, it's hugely untapped. Can you give us a sense of the scale of that market?
Yes, so I might start with explaining what the Eurozone actually is. So the Eurozone are the 20 countries who have adopted the euro, of which Ireland is one. And in terms of size, 5 times the size of the UK, both in terms of GDP and in terms of population. So a huge market, obviously diverse, but put together a very, very big market.
What would you say are the key selling points for Irish companies exporting to the Eurozone?
I think, first of all, we have very innovative products and services in Ireland, and we really need to recognise that. I mean, I meet our companies every day of the week, and I'm always blown away with the quality of the product and the innovative nature of the product and the services that we provide. So that's key. The second thing is the flexibility and adaptability of Irish companies. We're really good at customizing in order to satisfy our customers. And that's something that sometimes in Europe, our competitors don't do very well. You know, they develop a product and that's it. Whereas in Ireland, we're much better at saying, okay, if the customer needs a change to suit them, we can do that. So that flexibility is really valued. We have a very friendly business style that is really appreciated in Europe. We're trusted. Remember, we're a fellow EU member state. So we have that trusted and I guess, you know, the understanding that we are compliant with the different regulations. And we do have a very strong reputation. I'm based in Europe myself in Amsterdam, and honestly, there's always a very positive note to any meetings I have when I say that I'm Irish. So there's lots of things going for Irish companies in the market. But maybe to go back to the size of the market, I would like to stress that even though it's 5 times the size of the UK, our exports into the Eurozone are still only 70% of those into the UK. Or if you look at our exports into France, for example, which are growing very fast, but having said that, there's still only 14% of our exports into the UK. So, you know, similar size markets, and yet we've hardly scratched the surface in terms of the opportunity.
Yeah, so huge opportunity there with those kind of figures, but also it isn't necessarily easy, is it? And there are challenges. What are the big challenges that you see?
There are challenges, there's no doubt about that. One of them, and a big one, I think, and it's kind of the elephant in the room sometimes, is language. We're the only English-speaking market left in the EU now, since unfortunately the UK has left. And so we need to be able to speak the language of our customers. That means we need to be able to speak French or German or whatever is the target market that you're looking at. So that's one particular challenge. Another challenge is, and I mentioned it earlier, despite the fact that it's a single market, you know, the business culture and the ecosystems and the practices, the business practices in every country are different. So France is quite different to Germany, is quite different to the Netherlands, etc. And so that needs to be understood, and products and services need to be adapted to that. Our marketing skills, and you know, we talked earlier, Nagma gave some great insights into strategic marketing, for example. that's an area where still in Ireland we're not particularly good, and it's something we need to upskill at. And then finally, and maybe the biggest challenge that we have, is our own mindset. Do we really see Europe as an opportunity for business? You know, and it is, but still in our heads, I think we tend towards English-speaking markets. And of course, the English-speaking markets, Laura talked about the UK market, fantastic opportunity, a great market for Ireland, same with the US. But, you know, can we look at Europe more from a business perspective and recognize the huge opportunity that it offers?
What about supports then that Enterprise Ireland offer for companies that want to export to the Eurozone?
Yeah, so before going into the supports, I might just mention the relevance of the single market. So, you know, Ireland joined the EEC as it was 50 years ago, and the single market has now been in place for 30 years. So we celebrated its 30th anniversary this year. The single market means that there are no customs, no borders, and relative regulatory alignment. So this increases the accessibility of these markets. And then the currency, I talked about the Eurozone, having a single currency reduces the costs of doing business, because you're operating in one currency, you don't have any foreign exchange costs and any risk associated with foreign exchange. So they're the real advantages, I guess, of being a member state in terms of business. But like I said, we still haven't really availed of the huge opportunity there, despite, you know, double-digit growth in these markets over the last few years. But we do have supports in place in Enterprise Ireland that can help companies to avail of that. And there's been a lot of talk about the Market Research Centre, so I won't go into it in any great detail, but we would see it as a great place to be able to assess the accessibility and the attractiveness of the different markets in Europe, so that a company can choose which market suits them best. We also have the Grad Start, which was mentioned, I think Tracy mentioned it earlier on, which is a fantastic support for companies who need to have a language capability and don't have it, where you can bring a graduate into your workforce at only 30% of the cost. We have two particular programs that are very relevant specifically to the Eurozone. We run workshops called Go to Eurozone, and we run these 2 or 3 times a year, just as one-day workshops to help companies to understand the process of entering the Eurozone. And then we have a longer program, Enter the Eurozone, which is run with ESMT, which is a top business school in Berlin, which brings companies through a 4-month program, helping them to put together a market entry plan for one market within the Eurozone. And I would say that those programs are both available to Leo and to Enterprise Ireland clients. We then also have a market discovery grant, which helps companies to prepare for entering the market and help them to cover the costs of that. And then I would say finally, and maybe most importantly, we have a team of market advisors across the Eurozone in our 8 offices in 6 countries who work one-to-one with our clients to help them enter the market. But I would say that it's important that a company has done a little bit of homework before they approach these market advisors, and ideally they will have chosen their best market before doing so.
And Anne, finally, you know, when it comes to that ambition that Irish companies need to have, and many have, to export to the Eurozone, traditionally it might not have been a big market in the minds of entrepreneurs. Are you encouraged by, you know, are we seeing a step change in that mindset and companies looking more quickly to continental Europe?
We are, and I mentioned the Enter the Eurozone program. We've now had, we're running our 7th cohort of that program. We've now had about 120 companies go through it. And we're seeing those companies winning business faster now and coming to us maybe to look at a European market as their first market, which sometimes is very relevant for them. We're also seeing double-digit growth. So in 2021, we grew by 10% in the Eurozone markets, our exports. And when I say our, I mean Enterprise Ireland client exports grew by 10%. But maybe importantly to recognize that in Germany and France, the growth was 17% in each of those markets. So there's no doubt that our companies are now looking to the Eurozone and seeing the opportunity. And I just want to speed that up even more.
Okay. Anne Lanigan of Enterprise Ireland, thank you very much. Lots of opportunities out there and more companies availing of those opportunities and availing of the supports that are there. So I want to thank Nagma, Bernadette, Laura and Anne from Enterprise Ireland for dealing with those issues and giving us all of those insights and information. If you have any questions arising from today's webinar, The team at Local Enterprise Office Westmeath are on hand to help. Please email info@leowestmeathcoco.ie. That's info@leo.westmeathcoco.ie. They'll review your query and respond, or forward it on to the right person in Enterprise Ireland or Board BIA. Alternatively, if you are already an Enterprise Ireland client, please speak to your development advisor. Well, I want to move on to our second case study of the morning, and I'm delighted to welcome Caroline Gleeson of Occupop. Hello, Caroline.
Hi, Richard. Good morning.
Good morning to you. And I suppose, first of all, tell us a bit about yourself and about the business.
Sure. Yeah, well, as you've said, my name is Caroline and I'm CEO and co-founder of Occupop. And essentially what Occupop is, it's a recruitment software built for SMEs. And what it does is it streamlines and simplifies the recruitment process so that companies can find and hire the best people for their business. As was my background, started out in recruitment and was really working in recruitment, where got very familiar with the challenges and the pain points, and set about creating a technology to address that. And it was really, I suppose, happened at a time when you were seeing quite traditional industries being transformed by technology. You had Uber in the transport industry and Airbnb in the hospitality industry. And that's really what Occupop is all about. It's making recruitment incredibly easy and accessible to everyone.
Now, Caroline, excuse me, you started off with an LEO, and then you transitioned to the Enterprise Ireland high potential startup. Excuse me, I just lost there. But can you tell us a bit about that transition?
Absolutely. So we started off with Leo. We did avail of some of the grants they have, the trading online voucher, the business priming grant, which that really helped us kind of further validate and evolve the business enough so that we were in a position to start, I suppose, knocking on the door of Enterprise Ireland. And how we actually got in was there was the Female Entrepreneur Competitive Start Fund, which we pitched at and won a place on, which included an accelerator program and an investment grant. And that really is a precursor to the HPSU, and that put us on that trajectory.
There's a dilemma that a lot of companies face, which is, do we need to be very strong in the home market before we consider export? How did you navigate that, and how important a decision is that?
Yeah, I think that's a difficult question because it's quite subjective. As Peter mentioned, there wasn't enough of a market for their business in the home market. So I think you really need to think about your own vision. For us, for Occupop, we always had a global vision. So we were always planning on exporting. But in saying that, I do think you need to, understand your customer profile, understand your sales process, and there's no better place to do that than in your home market, and really validate the business before you, take the opportunity to start to export, because as many people have mentioned, it does come with risks, and there are certainly a lot of things to consider. And I think information is king, and without the right information, it can be very costly very quickly.
And when you were making that decision, looking back, what were the factors that pushed you in the direction of export? What were the drivers of that for you?
Well, I think we were always looking at the UK, being a SaaS business and having that global vision, the UK was like a logical next move for us. We saw less barriers because it was an English speaking market and it's very close to home. But I think that also comes with risk, because we kind of went in very quickly and underestimated, the size of the market and the nuances in terms of the sales process and the buying process, which, it is similar to the Irish market in a lot of ways, but it is also very different. And I think they were kind of challenges we encountered early on. And that experience, we used that a lot then when we were making decisions to export into other markets. I think, we were way more strategic in how we entered other markets based on the mistakes we made the first time round.
Well, it's often good practice anyway. And when it comes to then, deciding which markets you would go into, how did you make that decision, and what kind of supports, Enterprise Ireland supports, did you avail of?
Yeah, so we've had a few Enterprise Ireland supports. Some of them have been mentioned on this call. The strategic marketing review, the market discovery fund, were two in particular that were really pivotal in our decision to export into the US market, the North American market. I suppose, you know, for a recruitment SaaS business, that's, I suppose, one of the kind of key markets for us. But, you know, it is an extremely large market and there's a lot to consider. Even though it is an English-speaking market, there's huge differences. So, you know, the supports that we got there enabled us to really evaluate, you know, what that would look like, who the key customers were, what the buying process would be, and really enabled us to spend the time and money to commit to learning more about the market, because it is a very costly thing to do.
I was asking Anne Lanigan there about some of the challenges to exporting in the context of the Eurozone. What were the big challenges for you?
So I think there's quite a few things to consider, you know, because we have considered other markets as well. And, you know, for a SaaS company in particular, you know, we sell online. A lot of our purchases are done via credit card through Stripe. You know, and these are small things you need to consider in certain markets, like, is that the buying process there, or is there another buying process? You know, also, do you need boots on the ground, or can you actually operate, you know, from, you know, Ireland? And if you're selling online, for example, like we do we actually need a physical presence there, or can you use VoIP and registered address? You know, certain markets, you know, you may need a physical presence there, you know, when there's a language barrier as well. Certainly that's something to consider. Localization, which was also mentioned, you know, our website, you know, you need to consider the markets that you're in and who you're speaking to. That's really important as well. Legalities, tax, you know, there's a lot to consider. But yeah, I think just kind of taking one step at a time, working through it, analysing, you know, what's the cleanest with the least barriers to entry is very helpful.
And you've targeted the US market as well. What's that been like? What, you know, I suppose, what went well, what was difficult?
Yeah, like it is a challenging market. You know, for a tech business, like the US is very evolved when it comes to technology. The buying process is much longer than we've experienced in Ireland and the UK, for example. And it's just such a big, you know, it's such a huge landmass. Like, you know, the US really, the states are like mini countries within. So every, you know, whether you're on the East Coast or the West Coast, it's so vastly different. So the challenge for us really was understanding where to start in the US, and who we should sell to first and how we should go about selling it, and really kind of trying to learn more about that market and get as much information as possible before we kind of took the plunge and started selling.
So there are lots of companies listening in today. Caroline, what advice would you give to potential or early stage exporting businesses?
Like, I would definitely look at the competitors in the market. Who are the big players? Who are the lesser players? You know, if there is one monopoly, you know, why do they have a monopoly? Because there is generally a reason. And then is there an opportunity for you to kind of challenge that? Or, you know, if it's a very competitive space, is there room for you in the market? I think, you know, that's really important. And then outside of that, just really trying to understand, you know, who is going to be your target profile customer in that market. You know, what is the sales process going to be like? And then do you need boots on the ground? And overall, what's that really going to look like? I would always, you know, say underestimate, you know, the sales you're going to generate rather than overestimate, because, you know, stuff will crop up that you didn't expect. But there are lots of supports, you know, as they've been mentioned today, from the Leo and DI, that are really helpful, and I'd recommend making the most of those supports.
It's obviously gone very well for you, and you've reached a certain scale and a certain level in relation to exporting. But if you were to do it again, if you were back at the start of that, is there anything you'd do differently?
$1 million question. There's a lot of things I'd probably do differently, Richard.
Sounds like you're not going to tell us half of them.
I think probably, you know, would just be being more strategic. I think just being more strategic and more considerate about what we were doing. I think we were probably a little bit cavalier in the early days, but it has gotten us to where we are now. One thing that I always say that we've kind of operated by is being very lean. So we have always taken a lean approach, and when we went to the UK, we didn't put boots on the ground. We sold from here just to really validate the market before we invested further. So I think if it's possible to do that, it's worth doing before you kind of invest really big money.
Was it very difficult to pull that off? Because there are clearly advantages and financial advantages to doing it that way. Was it just hard to do that, Caroline?
I think it depends on the market you're in. Like, for example, the US market, we tried that and it didn't work. Like, we had to put boots on the ground there. It's just such a different approach to selling and how you speak culturally. We just couldn't do it. Whereas in the UK, it was definitely a challenge. And as I said, we did underestimate the nuances and the differences in the market. But I suppose being able to travel back and forth, it is the UK's close proximity. So we have been able to do that, and we do have offices there now, which is really expanded the growth.
Okay. Well, it's been a fascinating journey, and congratulations on everything you've done. Caroline Gleeson of Occupop, thank you very much for joining us. Well, I suppose the next big point that I wanted to make is in relation to information and all of this data that you have, and there will be opportunities for you to follow up with the relevant agencies, and I'll remind you a little bit about that at the end. And also you'll be able to watch back this event online and pass on details to others as well. But to make some closing remarks, I'm delighted to welcome Christine Charlton of the Local Enterprise Office Network. Over to you, Christine.
Good morning, everybody. And this morning, we really have been given a comprehensive overview on taking the first steps to export success. And key standout messages are, and I think that you'll agree, that there's a wealth of assistance available for companies who have the ambition to export. And this morning, we've been advised of the importance of conducting targeted market research in order to validate your market and to define your value proposition. And this cannot be underestimated. And Laura has assured us that the UK market is a very attractive market, and for businesses that the UK still remains and will be their first export market, and that the UK is a great pathway to exporting into other markets. And as Anne has shared with us, there is enormous untapped opportunity for Irish companies in the Eurozone. So where to from here? We've listened to what supports are available. So in the case of Enterprise Ireland clients, if you're an existing client, follow up with your development advisor. And if you don't have an assigned development advisor, email exporterdevelopment@enterprise-ireland.com, and staff will be able to connect you with the relevant regional office where all early and potential exporters are managed locally. And your development advisor will be able to offer you advice and link you into the various supports and services. So if you're a food client, as Claudia has informed us, to access Board BS services, a business would need to have a turnover of greater than 100,000 and be manufacturing in Ireland. And they would then be assigned a Board BS sector manager and be registered on Board BS system, while still being able to continue to avail of Leo supports where eligible and appropriate. And for businesses with a turnover of less than 100,000, clients will continue to work with the Leo through their various programs and initiatives. And in the case of Leo clients wishing to export, details of all sources of assistance, as outlined by my colleague Tracy, can be obtained from your local enterprise office. And just to remember that you can avail of export mentors to work with you to develop that export plan. And for Leo clients wishing to avail of supports offered by Enterprise Ireland, Contact your Leo business advisor first to define your needs in order to see how best that you can maximize the very valuable services of the Market Research Centre. And for Leo clients, if you wish to avail of the services of Enterprise Ireland overseas offices, your Leo business advisor will also liaise with Enterprise Ireland on your behalf, and thereafter, Enterprise Ireland will make an introduction for you to the relevant overseas office. This webinar was designed to outline the steps to export success, and I do hope that we have made your journey a little easier. And any questions that you have arising from this seminar, direct your queries here to Leo Westmeath, and we'll endeavour to answer them and to point you in the right direction. And our email address is info@leo.westmeathcoco.ie. That's info@leo.westmeathcoco.ie. And we will be circulating a recording of today's webinar to all participants. I'd like to sincerely thank Peter from Skylark and Caroline from Occupop for sharing their experience of developing export markets and the challenges they occurred along the way. And it was great to listen to the very practical advice given. And I'd also like to thank all our contributors here today. It is much appreciated. But before I hand you back to Richard, can I remind you again that this is Local Enterprise Office Week, and we have a series of local events being organised by the Leos. So check these out on the Local Enterprise Office website, localenterprise.ie/week, because other spotlight events we're hosting include webinars on driving cost savings with Lean that we've heard about so much this morning, and also a webinar on how to innovate for success, as well as how to assess sustainability and to drive competitiveness in your business. And for those of you who are looking to grow online, Google are hosting an event tomorrow. Finally, I hope you found our webinar informative. And on behalf of the local enterprise offices, Enterprise Ireland and Borbia, I wish you every success on your export journey. I now hand you back to our MC, Richard Curran, to bring our proceedings to a close. Richard.
Thank you very much, Christine. Christine Charlton there from the Local Enterprise Office Network. And just to reiterate briefly what she said, you know, you can access these supports, you can access information through LEO, Borbia, Enterprise Ireland. After today's event, the team in Local Enterprise Office Westmeath will email a link to watch the event back. It's also available to watch back on the Local Enterprise Office YouTube account, so please do share it with anyone else you might think will find it useful. Now, as Christine said, it's Local Enterprise Week. Get involved, check out the full county by county list, which you can avail of it, and participate in those events. And I just want to thank all of you, to all of our participants and to you, the audience, for logging on this morning. And bear in mind, there's lots of help out there. It's a big world out there, and there are lots of opportunities out there. So make the right decisions, and the very best of luck with your business. Thank you.
Thank you for supporting Local Enterprise Week. To find out more about other supports and programs for your business, just visit localenterprise.ie.